Have you ever been pushed so far by someone that you did something you didn't even think you were capable of? I'm not talking about yelling back, or calling the cops, or even moving away. I'm talking about something so petty, so ridiculous, and yet so unbelievably satisfying, that it still makes me laugh when I think about it. That was me, a couple of years ago, when I dealt with the worst neighbor of my life. A full-blown, certifiable Karen. And in the end, my revenge wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, but it stank in every way possible. Hi everyone, my name's Emily. I'm 27 now, but this story goes back to when I was 24 and had just moved into my very first place by myself. A little studio apartment. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it was mine. No roommates, no sharing a fridge, no fighting over dishes. Just me, my bed, my laptop, and the quiet little space I thought would finally give me peace. I can still remember that first day, walking in, placing down the first box, and smiling to myself. For the first time in my adult life, I felt independent. I felt free. But that feeling lasted less than 24 hours. Because the very first person who introduced themselves to me was my new neighbor. And from the moment she opened her mouth, my peaceful little dream turned into a nightmare. She knocked on my door that very first day. Not with a polite little tap, but with the kind of pounding you'd expect if the cops were at your door. I opened it, thinking maybe something was wrong, maybe she needed help. But no, she was standing there, arms crossed, chin raised, and she didn't even say hello. Her very first words were, "What's your Wi-Fi password?" I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. But her face didn't change. She wasn't smiling. She was dead serious. I said, sorry, that's private. It's my personal Wi-Fi. And she just rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might fall out of her head. Then she muttered something about unfriendly neighbors and stomped away. That was the moment I met Karen. And I wish I could tell you it got better from there. But oh no, that was only the beginning. From that day forward, she made it her personal mission to make my life miserable. She had this tiny little dog, this yappy little thing that barked nonstop. Morning, noon, and especially at 3 in the morning. It was like having an alarm clock that went off randomly all night long, and you could never turn it off. The barking got so bad that other neighbors threatened to report her, and I think management even warned her about eviction. But somehow, in her twisted mind, she decided I was the one behind all her problems. She started blasting her TV late at night, so loud that my walls would literally vibrate. Sometimes I'd hear her fighting with her boyfriend, screaming at the top of her lungs, throwing things. Other times, well, let's just say I heard way more of their private life than I ever wanted to. Thin walls are cruel that way. And if she wasn't making noise, she was knocking on my door. Constantly. Sometimes at midnight, sometimes early in the morning. Always with some ridiculous request. Did I have an energy drink? Did I have cigarettes? Could I lend her $10 till payday? $20 till Friday? She knew I wasn't going to give her anything. That wasn't the point. The point was to waste my time, to push my buttons, to make sure I knew she could get to me whenever she wanted. It didn't take long before things escalated. One afternoon, out of nowhere, she accused me of stealing her phone. She actually started telling people in the building that I was some kind of thief. I had to hold back laughter and rage at the same time, because I couldn't believe the audacity. Then there was the night she tried to force her way into my apartment. She shoved at the door while I pressed against it with all my weight, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd faint. That night, I slept with a chair under the doorknob. She even sent her boyfriend over one evening, banging on my door, yelling threats. I had to call security to handle it, but of course by the time they arrived, he was gone. And Karen? She played the innocent victim card. She always did. Then came the garbage. Literally. She started leaving bags of trash in front of my door. I'd open it in the morning and be greeted by the smell of rotting food, leaking soda, God knows what else. At first I just moved them aside. Then I started dragging them right back to her door and setting them down. That sparked a silent little war. She smeared Vaseline all over my car door handles one night. Another time, when the manager scolded her for something completely unrelated, she ran up to me in the parking lot and started coughing dramatically in my face, blowing her nose on me, like some disgusting performance to get even. By that point, I was exhausted. Mentally, emotionally, physically. I dreaded going home because I knew she'd find a new way to torment me. And the worst part? Management did nothing. They laughed it off. Oh, she's just eccentric. Eccentric? No. She was a walking nightmare. But here's the thing. My lease was almost up. I was already preparing to move into a small condo I had just bought. I only had a week left in that apartment. And that's when the thought hit me. I couldn't just walk away. Not after everything she'd done. She had made my life hell for 3 solid months, and if I just left quietly, she'd think she'd won. She'd move on to the next poor neighbor and do it all again. I don't know what it was, maybe frustration, maybe the universe whispering in my ear, but I remembered something about myself. Something small, something embarrassing, but something that could be turned into a weapon. See, I have mild lactose intolerance. For most people, that just means some discomfort if they have too much cheese or ice cream. For me, though, if I mix dairy with caffeine, spice, and fiber, the results are not pretty. We're talking rancid, room-clearing, gag-inducing farts that could knock a grown man to his knees. Normally, I avoided that combination at all costs. But now, it was going to be my secret weapon. The building didn't provide air conditioning, and Karen, of course, didn't have her own. Instead, she used a big noisy fan in her window to keep cool. A fan that, conveniently, sucked air from outside straight into her apartment. And my unit? It was right next to hers. You see where this is going, right? So I planned it out. I stocked up on every food I knew would trigger my stomach in the worst way. Cheese, milkshakes, spicy food, beans, coffee. I went all in. Then I waited until the perfect night, when her fan was humming loudly in the window. I opened my own window, propped a fan by my bathroom door, and, well, I'll let you imagine the rest. Within minutes, the rancid smell filled my apartment. I sat there on the toilet, biting my lip to keep from laughing, as I aimed the air directly out my window. And then, I heard it. From the other side of the wall, Karen started screaming. Oh my God, what is that smell? Then came the gagging, the coughing, the sounds of her retching. And finally, a full-on wail. I'm gonna puke. I almost fell off the toilet laughing. Tears streamed down my face. For the first time in 3 months, I felt powerful. I felt free. When I was done, I took some medication to calm my stomach back down, cleaned everything thoroughly, sprayed the apartment, and left like nothing had happened. But I wasn't finished. Oh no. A few nights later, I came back. Her fan was on again, rattling away in the window. And I repeated the process. Round 2. This time, I could hear her screaming through the wall, saying she had actually vomited, that she was calling the cops. I stayed completely silent, except for the occasional, very audible fart, which only made her scream louder. I waited, half expecting the police to knock on my door, but no one ever came. When I finally left for good, my apartment sparkling clean and empty, I knew the smell would fade. I knew life would go on. But the memory of her gagging, her screams, the way she finally got a taste of her own medicine, it was worth every second. Do I feel bad for the other neighbors who might have gotten a whiff? Maybe a little. But for Karen? Not a chance. For 3 months she made me miserable. For 2 nights, I made her miserable. And honestly, that balance felt just right. Looking back now, I know it was childish, gross, petty, but sometimes, petty revenge is exactly what your soul needs. She probably didn't learn a single lesson. She probably went right on being Karen to someone else. But at least for a brief, glorious moment, I got to feel like karma itself. So that's my story. That's how a quiet, ordinary girl turned her lactose intolerance into a weapon of justice. And trust me, it was the sweetest, stinkiest revenge I've ever had. If you've ever had to deal with a Karen, you know the kind of rage they can stir inside you. And if you had the chance, what's the pettiest revenge you'd pull off? Let me know in the comments, because I'd love to read your stories. And if mine made you laugh, gag, or just believe in karma a little bit more, hit that like button, share this video with a friend who needs a laugh, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life revenge stories. Until next time, stay petty, my friends.